Have you ever had one of those moments where everything suddenly shifts? Maybe you were in the middle of an argument, feeling completely justified in your anger when something inside you whispered, "There's another way to see this." Or perhaps you were drowning in worry about a situation, and then, almost miraculously, a sense of peace washed over you, and the problem didn't seem so overwhelming anymore. These moments aren't accidents. They're glimpses into something A Course in Miracles calls our natural inheritance, the ability to experience miracles through atonement. Now, if you're new to A Course in Miracles, as many of us call it, let me start by saying this isn't your traditional religious study. This is about practical spirituality, about transforming how we see ourselves, others, and the world around us. A Course in Miracles is a self-study spiritual thought system that teaches the way to universal love and inner peace is through undoing guilt by forgiving others and ourselves. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't need years of meditation or mystical experiences to begin applying these principles. You just need to be willing to question the way you've been taught to see everything. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most transformative sections of the entire course. Chapter 1, Section 3, titled Atonement and Miracles. And I know what some of you might be thinking, atonement? That sounds heavy, religious, maybe even guilt-inducing. But here's where A Course in Miracles completely revolutionizes these concepts. Forget everything you think you know about atonement and miracles, because we're about to discover something that will change how you approach every challenge, every relationship, and every moment of suffering in your life. The word atonement in our everyday world often carries baggage, images of sacrifice, punishment, or making up for wrongdoing. But in A Course in Miracles, atonement is actually about at-one-ment, returning to the awareness of our fundamental unity with love, with each other, and with what the Course calls God. It's not about being punished, it's about being healed. It's not about what we've done wrong, it's about remembering what we truly are. And miracles? These aren't about walking on water or parting seas. In A Course in Miracles, miracles are shifts in perception. Those beautiful moments when we move from fear to love, from attack to forgiveness, from separation to connection. They're available to every single one of us, right here, right now, in the midst of our perfectly imperfect human lives. Whether you're dealing with a difficult relationship, struggling with self-doubt, facing financial stress, or simply feeling like life has lost its meaning, what we're exploring today offers real, practical tools for transformation. These aren't just beautiful concepts to think about. They're principles that, when applied, literally change your experience of reality. So if you've been searching for a way to break free from old patterns of thinking, if you're tired of reacting to life from a place of fear and defensiveness, or if you simply want to experience more peace and joy in your daily existence, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to unpack how atonement and miracles work together to create what the Course calls a happy dream, a way of living that's grounded in love rather than fear, in connection rather than separation. Get comfortable, open your mind, and let's begin this journey together. Because by the end of our time together, you'll have a completely new understanding of what's possible when we align ourselves with the healing power of atonement and the transformative nature of miracles. Understanding atonement. Let me share something that completely transformed my understanding of healing and changed everything about how I approach life's challenges. For years, like most of us, I carried around this invisible backpack of guilt, shame, and self-judgment. Every mistake felt permanent, Every conflict felt like evidence of my inadequacy, and every problem seemed to require some form of punishment or penance. Sound familiar? Well, here's what I discovered when I first encountered the Course's teaching on atonement. Everything I thought I knew about making things right was actually keeping me trapped in cycles of pain and separation. The traditional concept of atonement that most of us grew up with is built on a foundation of sacrifice and payment. Someone did something wrong, so someone has to pay. It's a transaction model. Guilt requires punishment, mistakes demand suffering, and reconciliation comes through pain. But A Course in Miracles turns this entire paradigm upside down with a revelation so simple yet so profound that it literally rewrites the rules of healing and transformation. In A Course in Miracles, atonement isn't about sacrifice, it's about correction. It's not about punishment, it's about healing. The word itself gives us the clue, at one-ment. It's about returning to the awareness of our fundamental oneness with love, with each other, and with the divine intelligence that created us. Think about that for a moment. Instead of needing to pay for our mistakes, we simply need to remember who we really are beneath all the layers of fear, guilt, and false beliefs we've accumulated. Here's the revolutionary part that changes everything. The Course teaches that our suffering doesn't come from what we've done wrong, it comes from what we believe is wrong about us. We're not being punished for our sins, we're being imprisoned by our thoughts. The guilt we carry, the shame that weighs us down, the constant feeling that we're not enough, these aren't truths about our nature. They're illusions that block our awareness of the love that we are. This is where the atonement principle becomes incredibly practical and liberating. Instead of trying to earn our way back to goodness through suffering or good deeds, we simply need to recognize and release the false thoughts that keep us feeling separate from love. It's like discovering that the prison door was never actually locked. We were just convinced it was. Let me give you a real-life example. Think about someone you're holding a grudge against. In the traditional model, they would need to somehow pay for what they did, apologize in just the right way, or suffer enough for you to feel vindicated. But through the lens of atonement, the healing happens the moment you recognize that holding onto resentment is hurting you more than them. The correction isn't about them changing. It's about you choosing to see the situation differently. This is where forgiveness becomes not just a nice spiritual concept, but the most practical tool for transformation you could ever imagine. When the Course talks about forgiveness, it's not asking us to condone harmful behavior or pretend everything is okay. It's inviting us to release our investment in being right, in making others wrong, and in keeping ourselves trapped in stories that cause suffering. The beautiful truth is that love is our natural state. Joy, peace, and connection are our birthright. We don't need to earn them, deserve them, or work our way back to them. We just need to stop believing the thoughts that tell us we're separate from them. This is atonement in action. Not a process of payment, but a process of awakening to what was always true about us, the nature of miracles. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment that you're sitting in traffic, already running late for an important meeting, and suddenly someone cuts you off. Your first instinct might be anger, frustration, maybe even rage. But then, in that split second, something shifts. Instead of honking or cursing, you find yourself thinking, maybe they're rushing to the hospital, or maybe they're just having a really difficult day. Suddenly, your entire experience transforms. The traffic is the same, the situation hasn't changed, but you feel completely different. Congratulations, you've just experienced what A Course in Miracles calls a miracle. Here's where most people get confused about miracles, and honestly, I don't blame them. We've been conditioned to think of miracles as supernatural events, parting seas, healing the blind, walking on water. These dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime occurrences that happen to special people in extraordinary circumstances. But what if I told you that miracles are actually the most natural thing in the world, and they're available to you right now, in this very moment, regardless of your circumstances? The Course defines a miracle as a shift in perception from fear to love. That's it. No supernatural powers required, no special worthiness needed, no years of spiritual practice necessary. It's simply the moment when we choose to see a situation through the eyes of love instead of the eyes of fear. And here's what's absolutely mind-blowing about this definition. It means miracles are happening all around us, all the time, and we have the power to experience them in every single moment. Think about the last time someone genuinely surprised you with kindness when you were expecting criticism. Or remember a moment when you were consumed with worry about something, and then you heard just the right words that brought you peace. These aren't coincidences or random events. They're miracles. They're moments when love broke through the barriers of fear and transformed your experience of reality. But here's where it gets even more exciting. Miracles aren't just something that happen to us. They're something we can actively participate in creating. Every time we choose compassion over judgment, every time we offer understanding instead of attack, every time we see the innocence in someone rather than focusing on their mistakes, we're literally miracle workers. We're agents of healing in a world that desperately needs more love. The Course teaches us that miracles are expressions of love, and since love is our natural state, miracles should be our natural expression. The reason they seem rare or extraordinary isn't because they're difficult to access. It's because we've built up so many blocks to love through our judgments, grievances, and fear-based thinking. When we remove these blocks, miracles flow naturally, like water finding its way downstream. Let me share something that might revolutionize how you see your daily life. Every interaction you have is an opportunity for a miracle. That difficult conversation with your spouse, that challenging situation at work, that moment when your child is testing your patience. Each of these is a chance to choose love over fear, understanding over judgment, connection over separation. And when you make that choice, you don't just transform your own experience, you create ripples of healing that touch everyone around you. The beautiful truth about miracles is that they're not about changing external circumstances. They're about changing our internal experience of those circumstances. When we shift our perception from fear to love, everything looks different. The same situations that once caused us stress can become opportunities for growth. The people who once triggered our anger can become our greatest teachers. The challenges that once seemed overwhelming can become doorways to deeper wisdom and compassion. This is the miracle-mindedness that the Course invites us to cultivate, a way of living that expects love to show up, that looks for the light in every situation, and that trusts that healing is always possible. The connection between atonement and miracles. Here's where everything we've been exploring comes together in the most beautiful and practical way imaginable. You see, atonement and miracles aren't just two separate concepts that happen to live in the same spiritual text. They're intimately connected, like two sides of the same transformational coin. And understanding this connection is what transforms A Course in Miracles from beautiful philosophy into a lived experience that can revolutionize every aspect of your daily life. Picture this. You're in the middle of a heated argument with someone you love. Your ego is fully activated. You're building your case for why you're right and they're wrong, and you're feeling completely justified in your anger. This is what the Course would call a moment of separation. You're seeing yourself as separate from love, separate from peace, and definitely separate from the person standing in front of you. But then, something magical happens. Maybe it's a moment of exhaustion, maybe it's a flash of wisdom, but suddenly you remember, wait, there's another way to see this. That remembering? That's atonement beginning to work. You're starting to question the thoughts that are keeping you trapped in conflict. You're beginning to release your investment in being right. And in that instant of openness, something extraordinary becomes possible. A miracle. Instead of continuing the attack, you might find yourself saying, "You know what? I can see you're really hurt right now. Help me understand what's going on." Boom! Miracle. The entire energy of the situation shifts because you chose love over fear, connection over separation. This is how atonement enables miracles to occur. When we use atonement to release false beliefs about ourselves and others, we create space for love to flow naturally. It's like removing debris from a stream. Once the blockages are cleared, the water flows effortlessly to where it needs to go. Atonement clears the debris of guilt, judgment, and attack thoughts, and miracles are the natural flow of love that follows. The Course tells us that the Holy Spirit is the agent of both atonement and miracles, and here's what that means in practical terms. There's an intelligence within us that's always guiding us toward healing and wholeness. Call it intuition, call it wisdom, call it the voice of love. This presence is constantly offering us opportunities to see situations differently, to choose forgiveness over resentment, to extend compassion instead of judgment. Let me give you a real-world example that shows how powerful this connection can be. Sarah, a friend of mine, had been carrying resentment toward her father for 20 years. Every family gathering was tense, every phone call was strained, and she was exhausted from the weight of her anger. Through studying the Course, she began to understand that her suffering wasn't coming from what her father had done. It was coming from her continued investment in the story of hurt and betrayal. Using atonement principles, Sarah began to question her thoughts about the situation. She didn't excuse her father's behavior or pretend everything was fine, but she started to release her need for him to be different in order for her to be at peace. And as she did this inner work of forgiveness, something beautiful began to happen. She started seeing moments of vulnerability in her father that she'd never noticed before. She began to recognize his own pain and fear beneath his difficult behavior. And eventually, she was able to have conversations with him that were filled with understanding rather than attack. The transformation wasn't just internal, it was visible, measurable, life-changing. Sarah's relationships improved, her stress levels decreased, and she found herself naturally extending the same compassion to other difficult people in her life. This is atonement and miracles working together. The inner work of releasing false beliefs creates the conditions for miraculous shifts in perception and experience. Here's what I want you to understand. This isn't about becoming a doormat or pretending that harmful behavior is okay. This is about recognizing that your peace, your joy, and your ability to love don't depend on other people changing. They depend on your willingness to see beyond the surface of situations to the love that's always available underneath. As we come to the end of our journey through atonement and miracles, I want you to take a moment and really let this sink in. You now have access to two of the most powerful tools for transformation that have ever been offered to humanity. Not someday when you're more spiritual, not when you've read the entire course, not when your life circumstances are perfect, but right now, in this very moment. Remember, atonement isn't about paying for your mistakes through suffering. It's about recognizing that love is your true nature and choosing to align with that truth. And miracles aren't rare supernatural events. They're the natural result of seeing through the eyes of love instead of fear. When you combine these two principles, you become a force for healing in this world, starting with your own life and rippling out to touch everyone around you. Here's your invitation to transformation. I challenge you to practice this for just 7 days. Choose one relationship or situation that's been causing you stress or pain. Instead of trying to change the other person or the circumstances, focus on applying what we've learned today. Ask yourself, how can I see this differently? What would love do here? What false belief am I ready to release? And then watch, not with expectation, but with curiosity, to see what shifts become possible. The beautiful truth is that every moment offers you a choice. Will you see through the eyes of fear or the eyes of love? Will you invest in separation or remember your fundamental oneness? Will you wait for miracles to happen to you, or will you step into your power as a miracle worker? Your journey with A Course in Miracles is just beginning, and I'm honored to be part of it. If today's exploration resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the Course's transformative teachings. We'll be exploring Chapter 1, Section 4, The Escape from Darkness next week, where we'll discover how to recognize and release the thought patterns that keep us trapped in fear. I also want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share. What's one insight from today that really spoke to your heart? Or tell us about a time when you experienced what you now recognize as a miracle, a shift in perception that changed everything. Your stories inspire not just me, but everyone in our community who's walking this path of healing and transformation. Thank you for spending this time with me, for being open to new ways of seeing, and for having the courage to choose love over fear. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. There's a growing community of people around the world who are choosing to see miracles as natural and atonement as healing rather than punishment. Until next time, keep choosing love, keep practicing forgiveness, and keep expecting miracles. They're waiting for you in every moment, in every relationship, and in every opportunity to extend compassion instead of judgment. You've got this, and I believe in the light that shines within you. Thank you. See you soon.